Hello, welcome to Dr. Azita channel. Today I want to talk about nociceptor initiate protective response and also the nociceptors completely and also their mechanism. The nociceptors, they are responsible to a variety of strong stimuli. The strong chemical stimuli, the strong mechanical, thermal stimuli that cause or have the potential to cause tissue damage. In fact, if the tissue will be damaged or if the stimuli is so strong, the nociceptors are stimulated. And the nociceptors are bringing information. And the activation of nociceptors initiate adaptive protective responses. Nociceptors are not limited to the skin. They are everywhere because the receptors are everywhere. So if they will be damaged, if there is a danger of their damage, so the nociceptors will be activated. Nociceptors are sometimes called pain receptors, even though pain is a perceived sensation rather than a stimuli, and sensation may be perceived when nociceptors are activated. Pain and also itching. And next is the classes of somatosensory nerve fibers. The class is simple. We have A beta fibers, A delta fibers, and C fibers. The A beta fibers are fastest ones. The A delta are mediate in the velocity, and C fibers are so slow. The A beta fibers are large, myelinated. The A delta are small but myelinated again. You see, the A fibers, which are A beta and also A delta, they are both myelinated and also fast because they are myelinated. And the A beta is large, but A delta is small. And C fibers are unmyelinated. So A beta fibers are responsible for the mechanical stimuli, but A delta is responsible for cold, fast pain because they are myelinated, and mechanical stimuli also. So they are responsible for the cold too. As you see, every time that we are talking about nerves, we say pain and temperature. Pain and temperature. It means that the receptors in here, which are A delta, they are responsible for temperature, cold, and also pain. Pain and temperature, we say. So fast pain, and also they are responsible for cold. C fibers are small, unmyelinated, and they are responsible for slow pain, for heat, cold, mechanical stimuli. The most common sensation carried by these pathway is pain. You see here, fast pain, slow pain, mechanical stimuli, mechanical stimuli. And when histamine or some other stimulus activates a subtype of C fiber, the sensation we call itch. So nociceptive pain is mediated by free nerve endings whose ion channels are sensitive to a variety of chemical, mechanical, and thermal stimuli. For example, the membrane channel called amyloid receptor, also called a transit receptor potential V1 or TRPV1. So this is TRPV1. This is called vanilloid receptor 2, the vanilloid receptor, TRP1 receptor, or the transient receptor potential V1. So this receptor is responsible for the pain, but it also responds to damaging heat from the stove or other source, as well as capsaicin. Capsaicin, which is a molecule which, for example, is in the chili pepper too. This is the TRP1 receptor, which is called the vanilloid receptor 2, vanilloid or TRP1 receptor, which is the transient receptor potential V1. So in here, the capsaicin, which is located in the pepper, can stimulate this receptor. And why? Because this molecule will come and attach to this receptor. In fact, what happens? Here, I want to say that nociceptive pain can happen when the heat or the capsaicin, which is a molecule in the pepper, which is a lot in the pepper. This molecule, if it binds to this vanilloid receptor, then we may feel pain. We may feel that the pepper is so hot. And why this happens? Why we feel that the pepper is hot? Because the capsaicin, which is a molecule in the pepper, will come and bind the vanilloid receptor, which is located in here. And then we feel that the pepper is hot. So where this feeling comes from? The pepper itself is not hot. It doesn't have a temperature, but we feel that the pepper is hot because capsaicin, which is a molecule, can come and join another receptor, which is a vanilloid receptor, which is responsible for heat, but capsaicin can come and attach, and then we feel that pepper is hot. So it happens like this, that the capsaicin will come and join vanilloid receptor. Then this channel will be open, the sodium and calcium will enter, and then we have receptor potential, and finally the action potential if sodium gated regulated ion channel, voltage regulated ion channel for the sodium exists. Another example is for the menthol. Menthol is another molecule. If it attaches to another receptor which is responsible for cold, then we feel that something is cold. But the temperature of, for example, that food is not like cold. Only that molecule, which is the menthol, will come and attach to the receptor, and then we feel that something is cold. For example, cold taste, or for example, hot taste. So it comes like this, that the receptors for heat and cold will be activated, but by another molecule. Then we feel that something is cold, but it is not. It is not. The temperature of that is not low, but we feel that, for example, the taste is cold. This is because of the menthol, in fact, molecule, or this is because of the capsaicin molecule. So about the nociceptor activation, what happens? Well, the nociceptors can be modulated. What it means? It means that they can be sensitized or desensitized. They can have sensitization or they can have desensitization. For example, if bradykinin or prostaglandin E2 or serotonin exist in here when they are receiving the information to bring it to the spinal cord. So in here, if there will be bradykinin, prostaglandin E2, or for example, histamine or potassium, or for example, serotonin from plaquettes, or for example, from damaged cells, prostaglandin E2, and also the peptide substance P or serotonin, anything which I numbered in here and which I told in here, these molecules, if they exist in here, they will be stimulated, they will be more stimulated, they will be synthesized. It means that they will be more strong. But if they will in here, there will be some molecules like opioids, like galanin, or for example, anything which is anti-inflammatory molecule, then they will be desensitized. In fact, the molecules which synthesize these receptors, these nociceptors, which stimulate them more, which enhances the stimuli, these molecules are mostly the inflammatory molecules, and the ones which makes, for example, the pain to feel it less pain, for example, desensitize less pain, like opioids or some other molecules. So in here, by sensitization, the stimuli which has happened can be stronger and bring it to the spinal cord, or can be less sensed and can be not as strong, can be modulated, can be better feeling. I mean that it will be desensitized. It means that the feeling is less for that pain. So they will bring less pain, less feeling of pain to the spinal cord, and the story continues. In here, there is the ascending and also the descending tracks for nociception. So in here, I want to say that how the pain is going up to the spinal cord, to the thalamus, and then to the cortex, and how the cortex is going to modulate this pain after and before receiving information. So in here, as you see, we have A delta fibers and also A delta fibers, and also the C fibers. As you see, the nociceptor, for example, under the skin of trunk and limbs, or under the skin of face and cornea. The pain happens in here. We have C fiber, is slow, unmyelinated, and also A delta fibers, which are for the fast pain. And as you remember, A delta fibers were responsible for the cold, and C fibers for the cold and heat both, and also the mechanically stimulation too. So in here we have the nociceptor, which is responsible for the pain, and A delta and also C fiber. What happens? They bring this information of pain because of any mechanically, they are mechanically stimulated, or anything. For example, a molecule has come in here. A lot of, for example, capsaicin or a lot of mentholone is in here, and they are so much. So the nociceptors are active now. It means that the stimuli was not adequate. It was inadequate. It was strong. So this nociceptor is active all in all and bringing information. This is the cell body of this nociceptor. It brings the information to the dorsal root ganglion of the spinal cord. In here, cross-section happens because of the spinothalamic tract. As you can remember, the spinothalamic tract was responsible for the pain and temperature, and this is pain, so this is logical. It brings the information, cross-section, it brings the information to medulla oblongata, and finally to the thalamus. This is the secondary sensory neuron, and this is primary sensory neuron. And finally, it brings it to the thalamus. In here, we have the hypothalamus. As you see, the hypothalamus is located in here, and thalamus is in here. We have the lateral nucleus of thalamus, the medial nucleus of thalamus, and finally, by the tertiary neurons, sensory neurons, it will go to the sensory part of the cortex, which is the post-central gyrus. What happens in here? What are these interneurons? They are the inhibitory interneurons and stimulatory interneurons. What happens? Some interneurons in here will come and synapse with these A delta fiber and C fiber, which contains information about pain, and they will go for contraction. The sympathetic axon goes for the contraction, for example, contraction of a vessel. For example, as you see, pain happens, for example, because of an injury, because of, for example, blood is coming out of the skin. For example, something bad is happening, and for example, it's a dangerous situation. So sympathetic axon is in here, and this is stimulating for the contraction of the vessel, and also the motor axon for any kind of movement. So this pain receptor is going to have some synapses with interneurons in here for the motor axon and also the sympathetic. In here also we have from the skin of the face and also the cornea, the nociceptors are coming. Information comes in here, some information goes up, cross-section happens, and this is a secondary sensory neuron. Cross-section happens, and finally there is an interneuron in here which is going for the modulation of the motor axon. So this was the ascending nociceptive tracts, but what about the descending? Well, this is so interesting. From the cortex, we can modulate pain. It means that by our cortex and analysis and neurons, consciously, because it's cortex, so cortex means conscious. So consciously, we can control the pain. What happens? From the cortex, there are some neurons which come to the central gray layer. And also from the hypothalamus, also, as you see in here for the ascending part, we didn't talk about hypothalamus much. We talked about the lateral nucleus of thalamus and medial nucleus of thalamus, and they go to the cortex and so on. But in here, from the hypothalamus, which is under the thalamus, there are some neurons where they will come to the central gray layer. From the hypothalamus, they will come to the central gray layer, and from the cortex to the central gray layer also, they will have some synapses. In here, we have the lateral reticular formation. The lateral reticular formation will come and have some neurons down to the medial reticular formation, and finally to the nucleus raphe. So these nucleuses are bringing some information from the cortex and also hypothalamus down and down to the spinal cord. Finally, at the dorsal root ganglion, they will have some synapses with what? As you see in here, we had sympathetic axon and motor axon. So they are having synapses with these sympathetic and also motor axon, which are going for the contraction. And they are having, in fact, a synapse with the interneuron in here. And another segmental inhibition happens in here. For example, the beta efferent inhibition happens in here. And finally, there are some reactions in here. What are they? These corticospinal tracts, these fibers, these tracts, which are coming down to the spinal cord finally in here, inhibit this part. I just wanted to tell you this, that they will inhibit some reactions which were happening in here at the sympathetic and motor axon. And why? Because in here, there is no modulation. If these corticospinal descending tracts won't be, there is no modulation for this. It means that, for example, the response for these is so quick, so fast, without telling the brain, without going to the brain. I mean that For example, the information is going to the brain, but it has done its contraction in the sympathetic axon. So the brain is going to analyze and understand what is happening, and finally the information comes down and modulate these inhibitions and modulate these contractions for the motor axon, also sympathetic axon. And there is an inhibition for these interneurons. So it is going to modulate. So the answer and the response in here won't be so strong. It is decreasing the pain, it is decreasing the contraction, it is decreasing the effect. And in here we have another segmental inhibition also, that an inhibition in here also, which was happening for the spinothalamic tract. This is the spinothalamic tract. And it's a segmental inhibition previously had happened for this spinothalamic tract. And why? That is because this spinothalamic tract, this pain won't be understood a lot, won't be strong a lot. It wants to modulate. So from the first, in here, there will be some pain. Okay, there will be inadequate stimulation. It means a lot of stimulation. The stimulation is so strong, so it is pain. Finally, pain happens. Pain sensation happens. There are some fibers in here which are ascending. These ascending fibers from here will receive, will bring the information and take it to the spinothalamic tract, to the neurons in here, and to the brain. This spinothalamic tract, before it goes to the brain, has the segmental inhibition first. It means that the pain is less. On the other hand, it goes to the brain, and brain understands, and cortex understands what is happening, analyzes it consciously. From hypothalamus, from the cortex consciously, and from hypothalamus unconsciously, there will be some tracts and some fibers coming down for modulating the sympathetic axon and also the motor axons in here. So the answer cannot be so strong. So the pain cannot be felt so strong. It will be modulated. For example, if we have good feelings, or if we have positive feelings, or there will be some positive feelings, however, the pain is felt, this positive feeling from the cortex is modulating this pain, and the pain will be felt less. If the pain is a little, if the pain is a slow, the pain is felt, the slow pain is felt by the C fiber. And in here we have an inhibitory interneuron, and this inhibitory interneuron inhibits the pain. So the brain at all will not understand the pain, because the pain is slow, because the pain is a little, because the pain is not as strong. So it will be suppressed. Suppressed exactly at the level of the spinal cord without going to the brain. Another point is, if the pain is so strong, but still it is C fiber, a slow pain, but strong, then this inhibition is not working, and the strong pain by the C fiber will be felt by the spinothalamic neuron, and will bring to the brain by the spinothalamic neuron. And here I want to say how this C fiber will be inhibited. So all in all, there are some inhibitions at the level of the spinal cord, so the pain will not be strong. First, one of them is from corticospinal tract. Another inhibition happens at the level of the spinal cord. Exactly. But how? The touch or non-painful stimulation in here, if it happens, then we have the A beta fiber. The A beta fiber will have two branches. One branch will come and have synapse with one interneuron, which this one interneuron is having another synapse with this C fiber, and also there are several synapses in here. So the A beta fiber will come into the spinal cord. It will have two branches. The C fiber will come to the spinal cord. It will have two branches. The A beta fiber will have a relation with this interneuron, and also C fiber, another branch of it, will have relation with this interneuron. So what happens? The A beta fiber stimulates this interneuron. And why? If the pain will be so small, if the pain will be not so painful, the A beta fiber, which is responsible for touch and non-painful stimuli, will come and stimulate this inhibitory interneuron. So this pain, which is brought to the spinal cord, won't be felt by the cortex. It means that it will not go up because the signal is less, because the pain is not that much important, or because of the tonic adaptation. Because of the tonic adaptation. So in here, another time, pain happens. And pain happens because of, for example, a touch. There is a touch, and finally a pain receptor, which is a C fiber, is stimulated finally. If it is touch, if it is not strong, the A beta fiber, which is stimulated, has two branches. It will stimulate the inhibitor interneuron at the level of the spinal cord. The C fiber will bring the information to this secondary sensor neuron, but this secondary sensor neuron will not bring the information to the brain by the spinothalamic tract. Why? Because the A beta fiber has stimulated the inhibitor interneuron, so this inhibitor interneuron will inhibit this pathway. But if the pain is so strong and so harmful, and if the person is in danger, then the pain stimuli will come in here. The pain is so strong, so from another branch it will inhibit the inhibitory interneuron. The inhibitory interneuron will not answer, will not work, and then the C fiber can stimulate the spinothalamic tract, and the spinothalamic tract will go up and bring the information to the cortex. From the cortex, from consciousness, and also from hypothalamus. As I told in here, there are some tracts in here coming down to the central gray layer, to the lateral reticular formation, down to the medial reticular formation, and then here again pain will be modulated. In here, as you see, so there is two kind of control from the cortex, from hypothalamus. There are some tracts coming down, and it will have an inhibition in here for the interneuron, and this will have an inhibition for the sympathetic axon, also motor axon, and also another inhibition for this pain, which is going up for the spinothalamic tract. But there is a segmental inhibition, as I explained in here. This can be segmental inhibition. It means that if the pain is not a lot, if the pain is not as strong, not painful, if it is only touch, then the interneuron, inhibitory interneuron, will be inhibited by this, will be activated. Then the inhibitory interneuron will be activated, and it will inhibit the secondary sensory neuron, also the spinothalamic tract, which is going up. It means that the pain won't be felt, but touch and non-painful stimulus will be felt. And in here, if the pain is so strong, the painful stimulus is going in here. There are two branches. It will inhibit the inhibitory interneuron in here. So this is a segmental inhibition, inhibits this, and the pain goes up and says the brain, we are in danger. The pain is so much, the pain is strong. So about the referred pain, well, if, as I talked about the receptor field, so this is a secondary sensory neuron, the spinothalamic tract going up. The receptor field for this secondary sensory neuron is here. It means that heart and also the left shoulder, the skin of the left shoulder, is the receptor field for this, because they converge, they have convergence in here. They converge together. For example, if pain for the heart happens in here, it will bring the information from the dorsal root ganglion. Synapses happens in here, and it will bring the information. And even if the skin here has pain, it will bring the information here, and it will go up. It means that the brain will not understand where the pain is exactly. So because the receptor field for this secondary sensory neuron of the spinothalamic tract is large, if it will be large, mistakes happen. And for more visceral organs, we have the similar receptor field as we have for the skin. It means that it can happen. For example, for the skin, also the kidney. If the skin, we feel the pain on the skin, but it is the kidney, because the receptor field is similar. And finally, I want to talk about the withdrawal reflex. What is this? Well, if pain happens in here, the nociceptions in the right foot. Pain happens in here, the information from the pain for the right foot will go from the ventral gray horn. In here, we have some interneurons, which are the inhibitory interneuron, also stimulator interneuron. We must understand which muscle must be stimulated, which muscle must be contracted, and which muscle must be in rest. For example, this muscle in here must be contracted. Or for example, this muscle in here must be contracted. This muscle must be contracted. So a stimulator interneuron in here will be activated, and in here will be activated, and it will contract finally some muscles for going out, or for not having pain, or for running out of the danger. For example, for picking the leg up. So there are some flexor muscles and also the contraction muscles and extensor muscles. In here, the flexor muscles are contracted. The right leg flexor muscles are contracted, but the right extensor muscles are relaxed. So this is an inhibitory interneuron. Inhibitory interneuron will be stimulated, but it will inhibit the other neurons, and they will be, in fact, relaxed. It means that the right extensor muscles will be relaxed, and the person can have its leg up or can run away. But it happens another synapse in here too. The sensory neuron will bring information and hear the pain from the ventral gray horn in here, and then there is the interneuron in here. The interneuron has two branches, again for extensor and flexor muscle. If it is the extensor muscle, the extensor muscle of the leg must be contracted, so it will be stimulated. So this is an interneuron, one branch. It is the stimulated interneuron will go in here and stimulate here, but it will have another branch with inhibitory interneuron, and it will inhibit the left flexor muscles, so the person can run away out of the pain and out of the danger. All in all, there are 3 different synapses for this nociceptor in here. 2 of them with these interneurons of the right leg, and 1 of them with interneuron, which is going to the for stimulating and inhibiting the neurons, which are responsible for the contraction, and also for relaxing the other muscles of the left leg. And for the right leg, this is a right gray horn, the dorsal root, but the right part. And for the left leg, this is the left part, the left dorsal gray horn, the left part of this spinal cord. I just means that the left part is responsible for the left part of the body, the left leg, and the right part is responsible for the right part of the body, the right leg. That's it. So all in all, today we discussed about the pain, the nociceptors, and the variety in the tracts, the nociceptor tracts, and also the mechanism.